What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Road to Medicine. So, in today's episode, it's going to be amazing because we have a special guest in the room. So, today we have Esona with us. Esona is a third-year medical student at the University of Pretoria. How are you today, Esona?
I am well, thanks. How are you, Blessing?
I'm doing well too. So maybe as a starter, can you just maybe briefly tell us about yourself? Where are you from? What are you currently studying? Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Esona Siphango, and I'm a third-year medical student at the University of Pretoria, as mentioned. I am from a very small town in the Eastern Cape called Matric, which is a very cold place. So the current conditions, which is today is the 8th of July, so I'm sure everyone is experiencing the weather conditions, aren't something that is shocking to me, if I may. I'm also a part-time content creator. I have a YouTube channel where I talk about everything medical related, about my journey into medicine, my journey through medicine as well, called Medical Chronicles. Do check it out, please, if you can. I'm on Instagram as well. I live to make content about my journey through medicine because I feel like it's an interesting one to share, not to, sound, but yeah, do join me on my journey as well, please, if you can.
Definitely, I'm gonna drop the link to your YouTube channel and also your Instagram on the description when we post this episode, if that's okay. Yeah.
I appreciate it. I would truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. So maybe can you tell us about like your high school experience, particularly grade 11 to grade 12?
Can I please start it off in grade 10,
Yes.
if that is okay? I think grade 10, I was 16, and it was a very busy year for me because I think that's when I hit my proper teenagehood, if I may, because that's when I started drinking, I started smoking, I started just being rebellious, if I may. Most of my life, I was always the shy kid. I was always the, oh, you're doing so well in school. You're doing, I think mostly in primary also. Then I got to grade 8. Grade 8 was kind of hard. Grade 9 was also kind of, not that it was necessarily hard, but I think also adjusting to a new environment, new school, new everything, So it became sort of challenging. And being the conserved person I was, it was a mission to sort of like break out of my shell and then continue being who I was and doing academically well. And then I got to grade 10. Grade 10, I started doing all these things and my marks started showing way much more that, there's something going on. Grade 11 was a horrible year. I think grade 11 is a very hard year on its own, but because of where I was in life, emotionally and mentally, I think it was 2 times the difficulty, if I may. Grade 11. Grade 11 was a hard year, guys. Like it genuinely just was a hard year. I still till this day don't know how I made it past grade 11. I remember one day we were writing maths paper 2, if I'm not mistaken. And we were given a 5-minute toilet break before we started writing the paper. And I was sitting outside with tears in my eyes because I didn't know what was going on in the paper. I didn't know the content of what paper 2 was about. It was just it's paper 2, but what's in paper 2, And till this day, it's still a very, I don't know how I made it through, but I made it through. Matric was also a bad year for me, but better than grade 11. I think my highest mark in grade 11 was probably a 60-something%, which was for life orientation. Because of how excessive my drinking was. Like, I used to stay at hostel, and I'm sorry if I'm napping too much, but I used to stay at hostel and I wouldn't mind getting drunk today, knowing that I have a test tomorrow. If it was such a, I'm living in the moment type of and got a level 3, no, not level 3, level 2 for maths. I think it was a 30-something%. I got a level 2 for physics. My life sciences and my geo were in the level 3s. My English and Afrikaans, I think, were level 4s. Highest being a level 5 for life orientation. Got to grade 12. Grade 12 first semester was rocky, I won't lie. And then I think second term, I think that's when I realized that's when I realized that, you know what, application season has started. You know, you need the good marks. You need to do well. You know, this is your future you're talking about. Time to play is over. You need to, you know, pull up your socks. I think that's when my teachers were also sort of like, yeah, what's going on? You know, so I think grade 12, second term, I started pulling my socks up. My lowest mark, I think, was a 50 something for Afrikaans. Most of them were level 6s, level 5s. Third term also, I did well for my trials. And then final results came out to the bachelor's pass with a level 3 in maths, which was a drop from my trials, which is a level 5, and a level 4 in physics, which was a drop from a level 6 from my trials. And I think my geo and my life sciences were level 6s, my languages were level 5s, and I had a distinction in life orientation. So my overall high school experience was a very fun-wise, it was a very fun experience. Academics-wise, though, it was a very, what's going on? What am I doing here? Okay. Yeah, it was very shaky.
So maybe can you walk us like when you're in your matric, when you're applying for varsity, which universities did you apply for? Which programs did you apply for? And also like what did you get accepted for and rejected for?
Okay. So I think by the time I got to matric, okay, can I also just please take it back a bit? Recently, I was home for recess and I had visited my GP that we used to use when I was a kid and stuff like that in Coxstead. And interestingly enough, he asked what I was doing, and I was telling him that I'm doing third-year medicine now. And he was telling me a story about how, as a kid, I think I was 5 or 6, we used to visit him a lot, that I, at that stage, even wanted to do medicine. So from that point in life, I guess I've just always wanted to be a doctor, you know, to sum things up. And I think when it got to grade 10, grade 11, that's when my marks was sort of like, yeah, no, medicine is not for you. And I think that's when I sort of like started having to think of other career choices. You know, that's when Google started becoming a friend on career choices that pay a lot, you know, like which career choices are good for you and stuff like that, you know, top 10 best careers in South Africa, you know, those type of searches on Google and stuff. So I think in grade 11, it was civil engineering, law, along those lines. And then I got to grade 12. My sister had, during the application process, spoke to me about why not pharmacy, you know. So I think at that point it was like, oh, okay, there's pharmacy is an option and it's still in the health faculty. So let's try that out. So in matric, I think when I was applying, there were, I think, probably 2 or 3 institutions where I decided that I'm going to be delusional and put medicine as a first choice, because you never know. People's lucks differ, you know, and sometimes the system might just glitch and you find yourself accepted at an institution for medicine with your level 3 or your level 4. You know, people's lucks differ. So I did have, I think, 2 or 3, I can't remember which ones it was though, but I think at 2 or 3 institutions I did medicine as my first choice. But in most instances, it was pharmacy as my first choice, and then I would go with engineering or civil engineering or with law as the second choice. And then in other institutions, like, you know, the institutions where you put in your details, like where you put in your marks, and then it only shows you what you qualify for. I would just put it whatever it is that I can see, and I'm like, okay, you know what, this sounds interesting, this sounds fancy enough, this sounds, you know, whatever the case might be, you know. So I'd applied to all institutions, except I think the ones where the application process was quite hard, but I had applied to majority of the institutions in South Africa, and yeah, you know, sent through my applications out. Marks came out in June, you know, sent them through because, yeah, you know, some had already started responding that, you know, awaiting final matric results, whatever the case might be. Trial results came out. I think at certain institutions like NMU, I know that the choices that I had put initially were based off of what I could apply with using my grade 11 marks. So when my June results came out, my marks were a bit better. So I'd called them and I asked to like change the choices because, you know, my marks now qualified me for better courses and stuff like that. So I changed the courses there, and it was quite a lengthy process, but I was willing to go through that because I was like, you know what, it's your future we're talking about. And then Matric results come out. I'm excited. I'm happy, you know, got a bachelor's pass. I'm like, you know, there's still hope. And also I think coming from a small town where you go to what is considered the best school in the town also does cloud you in a sense, because you have a mentality of it's the best school in town, so I should be guaranteed a spot in varsity. You know, you sort of like forget that there's hundreds of thousands of other institutions or other high schools in the country that are way better than the school that you come from. And, you know, there's thousands of other kids that are also competing for the exact same spot that you're fighting for, you know. So we went to collect my statement of results on that day, started getting my rejection emails, my rejection SMSs left, right, and center. I think one institution that I remember that had accepted me from that year was NMU, and it was for BSc, what was it? Something in construction, town planning, or something like that. Town planning management or something. I can't remember what it's called, but it's BSc something like that. I think I got accepted at Rhodes University for psychology. Don't ask me how I ended up applying for psychology. I got accepted at CPUT for, I think it was engineering, but the extended program. But it was everything that was not even in my top two. Like, it wasn't proper engineering, it wasn't law, it wasn't pharmacy, it wasn't, you know, anything that I wanted at that point. It was everything that I was just now putting as a second choice, as a third choice, so that, you know, can submit application because I needed to have something there, you know. So applications wise, I applied everywhere, and rejections wise, I was rejected everywhere again. And yeah, it was a tough time. That January was also, I think what made it even more hard was the fact that the people that I used to drink with, and I still love them till this day, and I'm not even gonna, you know, badmouth them or whatever the case might be, is that the people that I used to drink with were now getting accepted for their first choices and stuff, you know, and now I'm like, but we were drinking together. We were doing
Yeah.
Now you're getting accepted and I'm being left behind, you know, like, what were you doing that I was doing? So I think that was what made it even more hard. But I think at that point, I was sort of like accepting my fate. I was then put on the waiting list at Rhodes for BSc. And at this stage, I think that's when the whole using BSc into medicine things started being more popular, if I may, you know, more people were talking about it. So it sort of gave me hope, you know. I was like, okay, you know what, even if I can't get into medicine using this BSc, maybe I can get into pharmacy, which was still something that I was still very passionate about at that stage as well. So there I was, making my way to Rhodes, begging them, talking about, my grandmother was not doing well, you know, that's why my final marks are so bad, because if you look at my trials, you can tell that I was doing very well. And then after my trials, my grandmother was sick. You know, cooking stories, you know, you're trying to get into varsity, you're trying to beg your way into an institution, you know. And I think at that point, I was really willing to go for it. And I called my uncle afterwards, shout out to him. And he was like, yeah, no, you're not doing that. Anything but BSc. And till this day, I think I really am grateful. I'm forever indebted to him for telling me that BSc was not the way to go. I called my dad, spoke about it, and he was also very supportive of the whole, not using BSc and just rather going back and like upgrading my marks and then trying again, which is then how the whole upgrading journey came about.
Okay. So I just want to ask, maybe a personal question. So I know, like, from most people, there's a stigma, like, when you choose to upgrade your matric results. So I just want to know, is there any stigma that you like faced, particularly from like maybe your friends or your peers, and like how did you navigate those feelings?
Not really from my friends, honestly. I think my friends were very supportive. Also, considering that in my matric group, I wasn't the only one that was upgrading. There was quite a few of us, so it wasn't. I think it also sort of like boosted my confidence in that sense, because now I was like, okay, at least now I'm not the only one. I think the stigmas were mostly from my family, especially the elders, because it's always no, you're getting left behind, your peers are moving on, just take whatever course and then you'll change inside, you're wasting your time. What if your marks don't go up? What if? So I think I had to quickly try and block those out. Also, I think what helped the most was that my dad and my uncle and my aunt also are my biggest supporters, my biggest cheerleaders. So I think knowing that I had their support, and my sister, shout out to my sister, because I'm sure she's going to watch this. But I think having them as my cheerleaders and just constantly rooting for me and telling me that, it's okay. We're here for you. Whatever it is, if you go through the process and your marks don't go up, you'll try again, or we'll find another alternative, we'll find another route. So it made things easier for me knowing that I had that support system with me, so whatever it is that anyone else was saying, it was now a matter of, okay, you're saying what you have to say. I get it. I hear you and I understand your concerns, but let me go through the journey and find out myself. Don't make experiences my experiences, or don't make your fears my fears, Let me go through the process, and then should I fail, sure, you're going to have your I told you so moment, but rather fail knowing that I have tried as opposed to not having have tried at all, So it was a bit challenging at first, I won't lie. I think also the biggest pressure or negative emotion I think that I got was in Feb, when orientation started, and you're seeing your peers in varsity, their orientation classes, their university merchandise, they're living life, their first outings, they're posting about, I saw this person, and it's just they're living life. And there you are in uncle's house with your grade 12 study guides, and you're printing out grade 12 past papers, and like there was even a point where I was ready to delete my WhatsApp, ready to delete my Instagram, because I was just like, I'm not ready, like I'm happy for you, but I'm also not happy for you, because that should be me. That should be me, so I think that was the only downside of things. But besides that, it wasn't too hectic. It wasn't too much to handle, I think, because of the support system I had. But also, I think if you are looking into upgrading, don't let anyone's 2 cents get in the way of things. Sure, they might have the I told you so moment at the end of the day if your marks don't go up, but your marks didn't go up for a reason. 1, either you were doing something wrong. 2, probably it was just not your time to be where you thought you wanted to be. There's always trying again. Try again as many times as you need to, so that you get to where you want to be. Nothing in life was meant to be easy. If you have to fight for what you have to fight for it. Just keep pushing. Something's eventually going to happen.
True. I love what you mentioned there. I think it's very important, like, to give it a try, and then like fail while you have tried, rather than having the what if I had done this, what if. I think that would be more helpful. And also, like, I think when you have a good support system, I think that also like goes a long way. So now, after upgrading your matric results, can you walk us through like your reapplication process? Which universities did you apply to, and then what did you end up like going to study? Like, what is your first degree at uni?
Okay. So initially, I had registered to rewrite in the May-June exam slot, and till this day, I thank God and my ancestors for COVID, because every day I realized that I really would not have been ready to write in that exam slot, study and go through more content and stuff like that. So if you did get anything 50% and below, level 4 and below, don't register to rewrite in the June slot because you're like, oh no, I want to make sure that my results are out by the time application season is open, or whatever the case might be. Right at the end of the year, if you have to wait another year, rather that, because chances are you will rewrite in June, marks won't go up, or if they do go up, they don't go up that significantly, and then you're going to beat yourself up about it because now you feel like you've wasted a year or whatever the case might be. So rather just go for the November slot. But I wrote in the November slot, my maths improved from a level 3 to a level 5, and my physics improved from a level 4 to a level 6. And during my application season, I was applying again everywhere. It was a matter of, if it's open and I can apply, I will apply. Mm-hmm. And I think at this stage, my uncle was like, okay, you know what? I think you do have the potential. So let's try and put medicine as the first choice and pharmacy and all your other choices as your second choices. So in most institutions, I did put medicine as my first choice. And I had pharmacy or law or, whatever courses that they had to offer as my second choice moving forward. I chose to rewrite my NPTs as well because the first round of NPTs are not cute at all, so I chose to rewrite them again. I think for the maths part in the first one, I got a 28, if I'm not mistaken. And the second time when I rewrote it was like a 60 something, so I chose to rewrite, and application process was quite tricky. It was quite messy because, with some institutions, you could easily create a new profile. With certain institutions, you're trying to create a new profile and now they're telling you that you already exist in the profile. And you don't remember your password. So now you have to go through a whole system to try and get a new password, create a new profile, or update your existing profile. So with some universities, it was a smooth process of applying, like creating a new profile and just moving on. With certain institutions, that was the hassle of having to, try to log into your old profile and then going through the application process again and updating your stuff. And I think with 2 or 3 universities, I remember I even had to call because it was so messy that it wasn't making sense to me. So I had to call and have them tell me, okay, try and do this, try and do that. So if you have to call the universities and tell them that you are an upgrading student, do that. It will make things easier for you. And with certain institutions, when you're applying, it does ask, what are you currently doing? Yeah. And then you can have the grading option or, taking a gap year or whatever the case might be. Some institutions don't have that option. And I think with those institutions, I would just say I'm a grade 12 learner because I was technically a grade 12 learner in that sense. So I know that application season as an upgrading student is a very messy situation, but call those institutions, buy minutes and call. Trust me, it's the easiest thing that you can do for yourself as opposed to trying to do something and then realizing that you didn't even apply to that institution because you did the wrong things. Just call, tell them that this is your story, and then they'll tell you, okay, this is how you need to apply because you're an upgrading student or whatever the case might be. So I eventually applied with those choices, and I think probably like a week in after I'd applied, rejections also started coming in again, and I was like, but I told you guys I'm upgrading. Why are you guys rejecting me? Can't you just at least wait for my marks to come back and then, wait for my graded marks to come back and then you can start rejecting me. So it was a very overwhelming experience also because now I'm like, maybe I'll have to try again next year. Maybe I'll have to, what's going to happen? What's to be of me next year? So final marks came out in Jan. The following year, I think, the following year it came out in Feb, if I'm not mistaken, but either way. So with the upgrading process that I went through, I had upgraded through my old high school. When my statement of results came back, it was already merged. I also know that is something that a lot of people do struggle with, but mine came back already merged. So it had my old Matric results and it had my new Matric results showing that I had upgraded. So it was seamless in that sense. But in most cases, you have to certify and have an affidavit because getting it merged through the Department of Education is a very lengthy process. But I did get the results out. And at this point, I think I was under the impression that because I'm an upgrading student, I'm basically in Matric, universities are going to get my results automatically, like how with Matric results, they come out and get them automatically. So I think results came out on a Tuesday. Wednesday passed, Thursday passed, Friday was going through, and I was like, I'm not getting any more rejection emails. I'm not getting any more, status has changed or whatever the case might be. So now I was like, okay, what, let's call these institutions and find out what's going on. Excuse me. And the calling process was also quite a lengthy one because, everyone is trying to, trying to change courses, trying to find out what's going on with their status and stuff like that. And, so I had to wait on those calling lines quite a long time. And I think, they also tend to not be as the helpers or the people on the call line weren't as patient because, they're dealing with a lot of people also at the same time, so I was calling and main responses I was getting on the day was, oh yeah, no, sorry, this course is already for specialist medicine, which I think also, to be fair, I was still being a bit delusional thinking that I was going to get into medicine with a level 5. Yes, I met the minimum requirements, but yeah, anyways, so I was still getting rejected in that sense because now they tell me that it's full, you'll have to try again another time or try another course, so calling different institutions, even the ones where I put pharmacy as my first choice, I'm just trying to get something so that I don't have to spend another year at home. Because I think my biggest fear at that stage was having improved in my marks, but then still having to spend another year at home, so it was just let's try and get something, excuse me, whatever it may be, try and get something and we'll figure things out when you're in. My application process, I didn't apply to all the institutions at the same time. So it was through a lengthy period. And I think when I started getting my first rejection letters or emails, it was still I was still applying to other institutions. So I was like, if I'm already getting rejected from these institutions, why spend 300 rand doing that? They also probably going to reject. So I was like, I'm not going to apply to UP. I think Wits also didn't apply to because they also have an application fee. I'm not sure. But yeah, so I called these institutions trying to, state my case that I was applying. You guys probably didn't get my new marks, but I did email them through. I think I emailed them through on the Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, after they came out, or on the Friday. But the only thing that I did was email them through. So just a quick pro tip. When you do get your results after upgrading, send them through via email to the necessary people, which you can find easily on Google, and call those institutions as well and tell them, oh, hey, this is my story. This is my case. I sent you an email so that, you can work on that. And Friday ended. And at that point, I think I'd given up. I was like, oh, damn. Now I just have to wait for the institutions that I could not get through and wait for Monday because obviously they're not going to be answering my calls on Saturday. So now I just have to wait for next week to try and call the institutions that I have not called yet, or try and call again the ones that I have called and just like call and beg and cry or whatever the case might be. But I was willing to wait. So at this stage, I was a teacher's assistant. I'm sure most of you who were in high school during COVID will remember those people that were there to sanitize their hands or whatever the case might be. And I had a small burner phone that I had at home that had my SIM card that I used for applications. So I knocked off, went home, I got home, I was chilling. It was a normal Friday, nothing hectic. And when I picked the phone up, it's an SMS from NMU saying, congratulations, you've been accepted for B.Pharm. And at first I was like, it's probably a joke. So I ran to my emails and I was trying to refresh my emails, trying to check what do you like. Why send me an SMS? Or why did I not get an email on my phone? Because I have been checking my emails. I was checking my spam. I was checking my main folders. So I was like, why an SMS? Nakona, even the congratulations, it wasn't even congratulations, it was congrats, So it was very informal in a sense.
It was very shady.
It was a very shady SMS. And I was like, whoever this is, please don't play with my emotions like that. I want to believe you, but also I don't believe you like that, So I think at that stage, I went onto my portal. Yes, I went into my NMU portal to check there if there was anything. And when I got there, it was like accepted, and I was like, oh. something, like I'm getting excited now. I was quite happy, honestly. I was quite happy. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not medicine, but it's also pharmacy. And at this
Yes.
point, I was very much in love with pharmacy as well. I was like, whatever it is, I'm content at this point.
Mm.
It was, and I think also at that point, it was more to say to the people that were like, no, waiting is not the way to go about it. It was also just a very big confirmation that I wasn't wasting my time. It was very
Yes.
affirming
Yes.
that you did something, you got something out of it. And my results, sorry, I accepted my offer to NMU. I think it was the only offer that I'd gotten, if I'm not mistaken, also after my grading year.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I think so. I think it was the only offer that I had gotten. Accepted the offer. We started with our online classes. I registered, then we started with our online classes, and then I moved to PE to study my first year in pharmacy, which I thought was going to be the rest of my life. But clearly the universe had
Had better
different
plans.
plans.
Okay,
Yes.
maybe as a follow-up question, I just want to ask. So, so when you're now doing pharmacy,
Okay.
is there were there like any challenges that you faced during pharmacy that sort of like for a moment it threatened your chances of ever like having to transfer into medicine? Were there any moments of doubts, and like how did you navigate that?
Initially, before I implanted the idea of trying to use my pharmacy marks to get into medicine,
Mhm.
I'd be lying. I thoroughly enjoyed. I enjoyed the course. It was quite interesting. I was willing to learn. I was very eager to learn because something that I had also wanted at that stage. So at that point there wasn't anything that was very, yeah, like my marks might not be good enough, or I'm struggling with this one module. Because everything was, excuse me, I'm enjoying this. I'm getting good marks. I think it was after I got my second 90%. We wrote our first quiz and I did very well in it. I got a 90 something percent, I think, or 90 on the dot. And I was like, oh, okay. Wrote our second quiz and I was like, okay, marks still quite good, which is when I think I sort of like started, playing around with the idea again of trying to get into medicine at that
Yes.
stage. But the main challenges I think came about second semester, of which it was sort of like around the time when I started getting my rejection emails from the institution that I applied for medicine. But initially, whilst I was doing pharmacy, because I was just doing pharmacy before I decided to apply for medicine again, there wasn't anything that was, a challenge or I think the only challenge that I might have had was making friends, of which obviously because it was still the first year post COVID, classes were still online. We only went to campus for practicals. It was, and the people that, because I stayed off campus, I didn't stay at Res, and the people that were in the house that I stayed in were seniors, if I may know. It was 3 years, fourth year, for your degree, it's your final year. So it wasn't very easy to sort of like make friends with them because they're seniors. They already have their friend groups. They have, so not really, no. There wasn't any major obstacle.
Okay. So I just want to know, while you're doing pharmacy, which universities did you reapply to for medicine, and like which was, so I just want to know, like, do you then like get a conditional offer while still doing that particular degree, or like how's the process?
So when I applied, so it was doing well. I think I called some of my close people and I told them that I'm planning on reapplying for medicine, but I'm a bit anxious because obviously PTSD. But I think at that point it was PTSD, but I was also very used to the rejection, and so when I was applying, I decided, okay, you know what, let's just take a chance, apply everywhere. I applied everywhere except for WITS, because WITS, once you're a uni student, you have to finish your degree before you can apply.
Yes.
Routes. I didn't apply at UL. I think Yeah, I think those are the only two institutions I didn't apply to when I was applying with my first year pharmacy marks, but I applied everywhere. Application process was a bit more smooth than it was when I was applying as an upgrading student.
Mm-hmm.
Sent through my marks. Before I could even send through because I think I started my applications before first semester concluded. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have my, at that point, I just had my Matric results. So in that section, I didn't have much to put. Yes, I didn't have much to put, but it was a matter of, when you're doing a course and you already know how much a certain test weighs and stuff like that. So in the parts where it required me to put my like varsity marks and like my that part, like I put in my calculated marks that I calculated myself, but I didn't have the transcript to then upload and then send through to the institutions, whatever. So a lot of institutions even started rejecting me. I think UCT was the first one to reject me, and my my transcript wasn't even out yet. And I was like, wait until you see the distinctions, guys. Like, don't mind my Matric. Wait for, that's the old me. Wait for the new me. Like, wait for.
Like, give me a chance.
Give me a chance. Like, don't just. But I was like, it's fine. It's fine. It's okay. It's okay. We'll wait for the transcript to come out. Transcript came out, I think, beginning or mid-June, July. Yes. So UCT had already rejected me. Walter Sisulu had already rejected me. And Walter Sisulu rejected me because they said they don't accept upgrading students. You have had to set your Matric once. So they said you have had to set your Matric once. Or if you had a gap year for more than 2 years, they also don't consider you. So in 2019, you can't apply in 2022. You have to have a, so they wouldn't accept you in that instance. So they also rejected me. So I was like, okay, that's 2 down. Results came out. I sent through my results to UP, SMU, Stellenbosch, other institutions, NMU. And I really thought NMU was going to accept me because they had a clause on their what's it called? Their admission, yes, on their prospectus that they have they take NMU students first before they take students from other institutions. So I was like, maybe I have a fighting chance. Maybe they might just look at pharmacy, medicine, pretty much the same thing. Let's take this kid. But unfortunately, they also rejected me. So second semester, I'm starting off on a rough patch. Quite a few institutions that started rejecting me. I think at this point, I'm also very demotivated. I'm not studying as much as I used to. I'm not being as consistent. I remember the test. And it was a very shaky situation at that stage, and on a random day when I was studying in the evenings, I decided to check my portal at different institutions, and it was still the same thing of, evaluation. They're still going through my application. And I was watching Siphamgo's channel also at that point. I think a few days before that, and he had just released a video with Skele, and they were talking about her experience and her journey into medicine and stuff like that. And she was talking about how she randomly one day was checking her portal and she saw the offer that she got, and it was very much a similar moment because when I checked it, I was like, oh damn, my status has recently changed. It was sometime in September, I think. My status has changed, and I was like, okay, I hope it's not a rejection change, like whatever the case might be. And then when I scrolled through, it said you have been provisionally accepted, and it was around midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I think. And I remember calling my sister, and I was super excited. I was like, hey, got a provisional acceptance to UP, like it was a big thing at that point. And I think all the other institutions that hadn't accepted me at that point, I was just like, okay, now we have to focus on the one that has
on the real deal.
You guys can wait. I don't care what you guys have to say, as long as I have something. One foot is in, and now I just have to work towards kind of acceptance. And I think it was a very difficult time trying to navigate from having fallen and failing. I think I'd failed 2 tests at that point, even.
Mm-hmm.
Having failed 2 tests, now trying to make sure that I like regather myself and get the good marks that I need to make sure that I maintain my average, because now there's a whole make sure that you maintain your average, otherwise you forfeit your spot. You know? It's a very difficult time, but I think when you want something, you're determined.
You go for it.
You go for it. You know, like anyone who's from PE knows how much people from PE drink, and also the house I stayed at, also not being a res. It was very Friday was a Friday, basically.
I see.
And the guys host. They used to host. So now it's also a matter of, do I put on my headphones and study, or do I also now go get myself a bottle of wine or a bottle of whatever and just sit in my room and unwind, whatever the case may be. But now it was a matter of, I can't come this far to only come this far. I can't afford to lose this provisional acceptance, you know.
Yes.
And December, Stellenbosch rejected me. It was just rejections, man. UFS, I think, also rejected me. It was just rejections left, right, and center. And now I'm like, it's UP, and my average is also now based off the calculations that I've made. And my transcript also came out also at that point. It was now UP and SMU that were left, and my average had dropped. So I was a bit anxious, because I think we went from a 78 to like a 76, if I'm not mistaken, or 75, or along those lines. So now I'm a bit skeptical. I'm like, hey. So now at the same time, as much as I'm so happy about the provisional acceptance, I'm basically praying for SMU to now also give me some form of provisional acceptance, so that, you know, 2 things to hold on to. And yeah, it was a very long December. When I tell you that I used to wake up, first thing I would do would be to log into my UP portal, check if my status has changed. There was nothing. Probably in a day I would have checked my status 3-4 times. You know, every time find that, let's go check my status. SMU as well, same thing. And SMU pulled a number on us also at a stage, I think it was around October, where they sent out erroneous emails saying that you've been accepted, whatever the case might be. And then 2-3 hours after that, they sent out another email saying, sorry, we were testing out a new system, thingy. And I was like, I was like, you guys, don't do that. Don't do that. These are my emotions you're playing with, you know. And I think I was also quite grateful that I hadn't told a lot of people that I had been accepted to SMU as well, you know, because now it's going to be a matter of, if I had gotten rejected from UP as well, now I have to explain what happened to SMU.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It was a very long December.
I can imagine. So I just want to say, maybe to someone who's like in a similar situation, maybe they didn't get into medicine from high school, and then maybe they're doing a different degree now. Sorry. And then maybe like they've applied for medicine more than 2 times or more than 3 times. And it's like, I mean, like a rejection letter gets to you. So to someone maybe who's now like starting to have doubts due to like the high amounts of rejection that they've gotten for medicine, what advice would you give to them to keep on holding on to the hope of getting in and becoming a doctor and fulfilling their dreams?
I think if you want it and you really want it, you know, you don't stop fighting for it. You know, I think one thing that I realized when I got to med school was that I had a fear also of, I'm going to be too old, I'm going to, you know, whatever the case may be. I was in first year and I was studying with 30-year-olds, I was studying with 25-year-olds, I was studying with, you know, people that were way older than me. Interesting fact also, there's a lady in our class who has a PhD. And, you know, I think I was worried that I was going to be too old. And then here comes in someone who's way, you know, more experienced and more advanced, has done so much with her life. And she still decided, you know what, I'm going back and I'm going to get that degree, you know. So it's never too late, you know. Don't ever look at what you're doing now and think, I'm falling behind, or I've tried too many times and I'm getting rejected every single time. You know, if you have to change your game plan, change your game plan. If you have to try using a different route, try and use whatever alternative different route that you may find. If you're doing BSc, change that course.
You can't say that. I'm finally a BSc. You can't be saying that. Hey.
BSc is not for the faint-hearted.
Okay,
If you're doing BSc, shame. Applause to you. But one thing about BSc will take a toll on your mental health, and it's very hard to try and switch from BSc into medicine. And I always want to tell matrics as well. If you're a matriculate and you're watching this, and someone says to you, "Oh yeah, no, apply for BSc," don't listen to them. That is nonsense.
Yeah.
Use any other side of BSc. There's pharmacy. There's law. We have people that were doing law. We have people that were doing BIS, multimedia. We have accounting students. We have so many people that switch from different career choices into medicine, so BSc is not the only route you can use to get into medicine. Rather use something else that is health sciences related to try and get into medicine, and if you really want it, I'm a firm believer that you'll put in the work and you will see the results.
Exactly.
You can't be putting in the work and you're not. So keep pushing,
Yeah.
Use those rejection emails as motivation to keep on knocking. Eventually someone will open for you. Even if it's not UP, it might be NMU, it might be UFS, but eventually.
I think you mentioned a very important point of if you work hard and you're really determined, you're gonna get it. And also change the game plan, but not the goal, not the destination. You keep it the same. I think that's You have to stop sleeping at 2:00 and start sleeping at 12:00 because you feel like you're going to, whatever might work for you in that instance, do that. But just keep in mind that this is why I'm doing this. And don't let people's negative comments and whatever anyone has to say about, oh, you're trying to me and you're not getting in. Maybe it's a sign. It's never a sign. It's a sign to keep on trying. It's a sign to push harder, knock harder. You will get in one day, eventually. Definitely. So, maybe if you can ask a personal question, how did you know that medicine was your calling? And what kept your hope alive? How did you know that, okay, this is my calling?
I think, like I said, it's probably been something that has always been there because my old GP can confirm that I used to talk about wanting to be a doctor from the age of 5, 6. And I think around that time, that's when my uncle had just started being a doctor and stuff like that. So it was he was a role model to me, it was very, oh, my doctor, I want to be a doctor one day. And I think I grew up and, excuse me, you have those old people that would be like, oh, what are you going to be one day? Are you going to be a teacher like your dad or whatever? Because my dad was a principal. My mom was also a teacher. So it was always a matter of, no, none of that. I want to be a doctor, and then I got into primary school. I wasn't really thinking about it. Grade 8, grade 9, my aunt was on her journey to become a neurosurgeon. I think I was very inspired by her journey. I was very motivated that, you are a woman who is married, has 2 kids, and you want to find yourself in a male-dominated field,
Yeah.
It's a very, who do you think you are? And she was like, I'm exactly who I think I am, and it was very inspirational to me. And I remember in grade 9, we were sitting in a social sciences or arts and culture class, and one of my classmates was asking us, what do you want to be, and stuff like that, and I remember my answer was, I want to be a neurosurgeon. Sure, I might have given up on my dream at a certain stage, but I'm glad it didn't necessarily die down, and I'm a very firm believer of what's meant for you will find you. The universe knew that eventually, even if it takes me a longer route, you will end up where you need to be, and
yes.
Here I am today.
Definitely. So, last 2 questions. So, can you tell us, what is your grinding motto or a quote that you live by in order, to remain focused and get the work done, your studies and also balancing social life? What is a quote that you live by to stay focused in life?
In my upgrading journey, I stayed with my with my uncle. And my aunt was also studying for her final exams. I was studying for exams as well. And there's this guy, I think on Apple Music, motivational something. I can't remember what it's called exactly, but one that she really liked was, it started off by saying, I didn't come this far to only come this far. And it goes on and it talks about how you have to be hungry for what you want and stuff, whatever the case might be. But I think those first few words have always stuck with me ever since then. And every single time I don't perform as well as I'd like to do in a test, every single time I'm not in the mood to study, but I remember how much weight a certain test has in that certain block, whatever the case might be, I have to remind myself that I didn't come this far to only come this far. It has to be a matter of, I got into medicine and I finished medicine and now I'm a doctor. I can't live, I wouldn't be able to live with myself knowing that I got into medicine and then I failed and then that was the end of my story. It's just a constant, I didn't come this far to only come this far. And last year I failed my very first test in varsity. There's a medical content creator, medical student at UCT known as Dr. Andy.
Dr. Andy? Mm-hmm.
One of her videos, even till this day, I'm always just like, things happen so coincidentally to a point where it's just like, was it really a coincidence? I just watched a video of hers, I think 2-3 weeks before that, where she was talking about, she was a top achiever in high school and then she got to varsity and she failed the first test. And, no matter how smart you might have been in high school, you will get to a point in your medicine degree where you fail at least one test or one quiz or whatever the case might be, And I remember thinking to myself, I've been doing so well, like I've been getting distinctions left, right, and center, I've just, there's no ways, she's not talking about me. She's not talking to me. There's no way I'm failing. 2-3 weeks pass, I failed my first test and I was like, wait, what? wait. Now here I am experiencing the exact same failure she spoke about, and I think with the block that we're going through, if you're from UP and you know block 3, well, at least if you're from UP and you know block 3 and you did block 3 2023 or 2024, you know how hard or how messy that block is. And, it wasn't an easy block, so I'd failed and I think I was going through so many emotions. I remember I used to call back home crying, thinking, I need to prepare you guys so that should I come back and say, oh yeah, I'm repeating second year, that I was crying at the beginning of the year and how hard that block was, so let me prepare you guys as soon as I can, and I think my sister had even reminded me at that point that, you used to say you didn't come this far to only come this far. I need you to remember that as well, that even if you do fail, it's not the end of the world. You've come this far and you're not going to end here. You're still going to move forward, and I think that is my biggest push. Everything that I do, that yes, I may fall, but one thing I will do is get up, dust myself off and keep on with my journey because I did not come this far to only come this far.
Definitely. I love your quote.
I used to have it will end in Dr. Siphango before I got into medicine. And
yes, you should.
It can't not not end in Dr. Siphango, But I truly believe in that.
Definitely. I love that quote. I think, that's a very nice quote. So maybe as a last question, it's a personal question again. So, if I can ask, what would you say is your aspiration in life, but in the sense of like, as a doctor, what is your aspiration in life? Like when you become a doctor, what is your aspiration in life? What change do you or impact do you want to make in the world?
Oh, man. I think I definitely, for starters, want to give back. Like, I think, coming from a small town, which is considered a very rural town, not a lot of people know your basic signs and symptoms of your chronic illnesses. Not a lot of people are aware of how serious it is to, take your treatment and actually, like my dad was sick recently and, excuse me, he was put on an antibiotic course. And when he started feeling well, he was like, oh yeah, no, I'm okay. I don't need to to do my
You need to
treatment.
finish the treatment.
And and a lot of people from where I'm from, and I think quite a lot of old people still believe in the whole notion of when I feel better, I don't need to take my treatment. So I think one big thing that I would like to do is give back in terms of educating people that treatment is something that you need to take. I need to see them understanding that signs and symptoms are something that you should take seriously. You shouldn't wait until your signs and symptoms have gotten to a point of, excruciating pain, or now you're starting to feel to go see a doctor. Whatever it is that you feel like that was not there last week. It may be a small lump in your neck. It may be, something in your eye. Whatever it may be, visit your doctor, visit the clinic, visit whatever it may be. I think that's what I want to give back, in the sense of, I think also it's a very easy thing to talk about, but hard to execute, if I may, because obviously there's a lot of people and few healthcare workers. But working in a clinic, I think a lot of times people tend to not want to go to the clinic because they already know that I'm going to get those green painkillers. The doctor's probably not even going to pay too much that I have to say, because he's seeing way worse patients, or patients that have way worse complications than what I have. But I really just want to be that doctor's kind. I'm not scared to go to the doctor. I actually want to visit that doctor. I actually want to know more about what I might have. I want to know more about, how I can prevent this from happening, or how I can improve this, or whatever the case might be. But I really just want to give back to the community that raised me, if I may, especially. Then from that point, then just figure things out moving forward. But I also do want to be a light to young people as well, to know that, you can be in a very dark and challenging field, but it shouldn't change who you are as a person. I just want, like Dr. Musa, for example, you don't have to always be be a ray of sunshine, while doing your job, and while giving back, and while, actively living life also. But yeah, I think that's round about a starting line of where I want to see myself in the near future.
Okay. I think you mentioned a very important aspect, like giving back to the community that raised you. And also, I think a point that you raised about like lack of awareness, especially in terms of like an antibiotic course. I know from my mom, when she starts feeling better, I have to you need to finish them. You don't just stop because you're feeling better. So I think that is really like a thing that needs to be addressed, like in communities, because it's just a matter of lack of awareness. If they knew, like, actually you have to, they would finish the treatment. And maybe as a bonus, I don't know if it's too early to ask, but have you thought about like a path to specializing, or is it too early to ask?
It's not. I think I came in knowing that it was one of two things, and I still not so sure about the second one, because we did a block in it recently, and it was kind of messy. But I've always told myself that if I don't specialize in neurosurgery, it would have to be cardiothoracics.
Okay.
One of the two. I do believe it's subject to change based off the rotation. Then we only start rotations next year. So
yes,
based on what I enjoy the most next year, probably I might end up in a different specialty. But at the moment, it's still very much between cardiothoracics and surgery.
Okay. Thank you so much for taking time to be part of this project and join me for this interview. Taking time from your busy schedule and dedicating it to have this interview with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I truly enjoyed. And I do hope that you guys watch and you comment, you subscribe, and you share this video and all the other videos that have been posted before this one as well.
Definitely. Thank you. I hope everyone's going to enjoy this episode.